It now begins to assume some of the order and rank, which was the Simeonites, the Levites, so they're second and third anyways in terms of birth order. It's going to mention a couple priests that are going to be there. Then Benjamin gets assumed in there, and Benjamin is an interesting one because Saul was from Benjamin. So the people who come over from Benjamin are described in verse 29 as 3,000, of whom the majority had to that point kept their allegiance to the house of Saul. So of course, for them to, it's not simply, understand it this way, it's not simply that, oh, Saul died, I may as well go to David. It takes an act of faith, allegiance, to leave Saul's legacy behind and now take on David's leadership and kingdom. It's an act of faith. And faith understood in this context is not simply trust. Faith is allegiance. Faith is about loyalty. And I want you to understand our faith the same way. Your faith and mine is not simply to believe simply in a group of sayings or doctrinal points simply. It's to rather pledge allegiance to the Lamb. That's where our unity is found. Our unity is organized around him. So recognizing then that everyone here, including Benjamin, where we're pausing here because we're thinking about Benjamin, who Saul is a Benjaminite. So for anyone in the tribe of Benjamin to be willing to come to David is a daring act of faith. And it reminds us that faith has a daring element to it. It's risky. It's willing to take a risk. It's willing to take the dare and to cross the line and go over to the other side. So for the Benjaminites to do that was of great cost. The Ephraimites are then mentioned, who were the leaders of Israel to the north. You have Manasseh, and then after that will be Issachar. Issachar is going to be right in the middle of it. Not really any reason to... One might ask the question here, why pick Issachar and not Manasseh, Ephraim, or Zebulun? Why Issachar? Why particularly them? What is noteworthy about them that we should actually give it our interest and give it our attention? Verse 32 of Issachar, men who had understanding of the times to know what Israel ought to do, 200 chiefs and all their kinsmen under their command. Their number is radically low. If we're looking at the numbers here, we're in the thousands in all of the tribes except Issachar. So they're the lowest. What are we to read into that? What are we to say about the fact the number is radically lower? I mean, to put it in context here, Zebulun's got 50,000, which I think is one of the highest numbers of them all. 120,000 at the end is really Reuben, Gad, and Manasseh being conglomerated together. So what to make of this small number? Well, it reminds us that numbers that are small don't necessarily mean as much as we might want it to mean in this part, other than the fact that there is something for us there to ponder. Let's begin, though, with Issachar himself. When we're talking about Issachar, we're talking about the tribe, though, right? We're not talking about the actual historical character who lived 1,000 years before this event is being described here. So Issachar himself, being one of the descendants of the sons of Jacob, is part of Israel. So when we mean Issachar here, we mean the tribe of Issachar, right? And recognizing the tribe of Issachar, Issachar means something like reward. When recognizing that he whose name means reward, interesting things to note about him is that, of the tribe of Issachar, is that they end up receiving one of the best places of the land in the promised land. It was the most fertile, and they irrigated it very well. Issachar, because of that, they were called strong donkeys, which normally that expression would not mean much to us, because donkey doesn't mean what it does back then for them, as you could understand. For them, a strong donkey meant hard-working. And kind of like the Chinese zodiac this year, right? The year of the horse. Any horses out there? Yeah, well, giddy up. We have recognition that the horse is hard-working, right? it's these kind of images that are meant to, now does that mean everybody born in those years is hardworking? I doubt it, right? But it is to say that that could be a distinctive. Now for Issachar, in his year, his promise that's given, his reward is that he will be a strong donkey, which means he will be hardworking. Now think about it. Put the two together. He has the best land in Canaan, and best in the sense of like fertile soil, lots of nitrogen in the soil, right? It can grow well. And Issachar has that, and he's hardworking. So what does he become because of the promise and the reward given to him is he becomes very good at farming, right? And that farming will then give rise to great crops. And those crops will give rise to agriculture. Agriculture is something that you and I probably don't appreciate as much as we can, other than if you really are into your garden in the backyard in the warmer seasons, right? We don't live in farms. Like, we are urban people here, all of us. I don't think I'm speaking generally when I say that, than to say that we all are urbanites here. We live in the city. And what that means is that we don't know the life that is lived in the farm, where you're waking up at 4 a.m. to milk cows. I just saw an image this week in Kentucky of a baby calf that was sleeping on the couch next to the 3-year-old son. And there was a 5-year-old daughter that was on the other side of the couch, and they're snuggled up right next to him. And we look at that, and that's very strange to us. But the farmer from Kentucky who comments on this picture, he actually said it went viral, but he's like, I do this all the time. Some of the animals freeze outside, and they need to come in the house. It just so happened that day he was on the couch, and people said that was looking cute, and then it just took off. So giving you that sense to say he's a farmer, he gets it, that these are things you do. But to us, who are urbanites who scroll all day, that's cute, and that gets a like from us. But to them, that's day-to-day life. That's just what we do. So considering that type of, I think there's something to be said about the fact that we've lost something of our connection to the soil because we are not farming people. I think there's something to be said about that we're missing something of our lives. I recognize that because I know this one fellow who actually was a city guy, lived in Richmond Hill, the whole nine, and he turned to becoming a farmer because his parents had the farm, and he took it over. He was completely urbanite, though, and he took it over and is still a farmer to this day. And he really talks about the science in farming so detailed with me. It's fascinating, to be honest with you. And to have been on his farm and to see how people literally pull over on the side of the road and they get their strawberries or their corn, whatever's in season, because they have this type of lifestyle, it really does make you think to yourself, you know, if ever there were a career change to consider, would farming be one of your thoughts about becoming? Because there really is a lot of value in connecting with the soil. Because remember, we're made from it, right? And recognizing that connection with it also humbles you, right? Your hands are dirty. You got to work it. Watch it now, you're so dependent, though, on the sky. You're dependent on storms not hitting. I want you to think about a Saskatchewan farmer this past, I guess it's their off season because the land is lying dormant. But one of the big things was for a lot of the pea farmers, those green peas that they had, this year was tremendously stressful for them because they did not know what to do with regards to planting peas this before the winter hit. And the reason I say that is because of the Trump tariffs. They weren't sure whether they were even going to be used because the tariffs were so high, and canola oil with China was a problem. So they had a lot of issues going on, and they were really depending on, could you imagine? You're trying to figure out, should I plant all this, when in the end it could all be a waste when it comes to springtime, when it finds out what the politics of the day will be. Long story short, it ended up working out that they ended up being able to still find a viable way forward because tariffs have been relaxed with China on regards to canola oil. And pea farmers are also impacted by that in a profound way, that in some sense, though, if you didn't do it earlier on, though, you're gonna lose out big time when it comes to spring, which is their livelihood. So considering the life of a farmer is very stressful because you're so dependent on the elements. You're dependent on a good crop coming forward based on the rain coming, based on the fact that the ground won't go through a drought, that it won't have a lack of irrigation. So there's something to be said about the value of farming being because we are dependent on elements outside of ourselves. And I say that because in our own lives, we crave and desire a high level of control. And we can do that in a large way because of the way we're living and leading our lives in this contemporary 21st century, in the first quarter of our century. We're able to do that because we have a high level of control through the elements around us, because we've secured things around us to ensure that things will work a certain way. But if we were outside and not as indoors as we are, we might see that things look a lot different, and we might actually feel uncomfortable about it, and that might actually be not a bad thing, but a good thing. At least that's what Issachar's tribe is telling us. The tribe of farmers, the tribe that actually grew its prosperity and its fortune based on the fact that God blessed them with the best land, but they also worked that land as hard as they did to now begin to see the blessings and benefits that would come from it. Now, Issachar knows the politics, though, of it all, because they got driven out of the land, right? They lost their land when the other ites of the land overtook them, and when the Babylonians ended up taking over, well, actually Assyria to the north took over the tribe of Issachar. So they lost their land. They know what that's like, to lose your land, or to better get still the crops, but now it's going to the Assyrians instead of to your people to feed their hungry mouths and families. Issachar is going to be a people then that would have been able to read the skies well. They would have been those who Jesus would have been describing and criticizing the Pharisees in this point. And this is in Matthew chapter 16. In Matthew 16, Jesus has the Pharisees and Sadducees coming once again to him to test him, and they want him to show a sign from the skies, which is heaven. I should mention, heaven for them didn't necessarily mean what heaven means for us. Whenever we talk about heaven, we're always talking about that invisible realm where Jesus is assumed the right hand of the Father. For them, heaven means sky, right? And so recognizing this, they want a sign from heaven. They want to see something physical happen. Jesus answers them this. He says to the Pharisees and Sadducees who are testing him, "When it is evening, you say it will be fair weather, for the sky is red. And in the morning, it will be stormy today, for the sky is red and threatening. You know how to interpret the appearance of the sky, but you cannot interpret the signs of the times. An evil and adulterous generation seek for a sign, but no sign will be given to it except the sign of the prophet Jonah." And then he left them and departed. That means he was not happy with them. So in light of this teaching that Jesus gives them, he tells them, you're hypocrites because you could read the skies, you could see when it's red, what that means for the weather patterns, but you can't read the sign of the times. And that's what Issachar is going to give us in terms of its valuing of not only being able to read the skies as they were able to do for their agriculture and their daily life and the growth and prosperity of the land, but also it tells us they were men who had understanding of the times. Now it tells us that there were only 200 chiefs. And the reason the number's so low is because there's really not that many people that do this, that understand the times that we're living in. So the understanding of the times was something already Issachar had benefited from because of God blessing them the way they had received what they did. But now we also discover that they are going to also show that they get the times because they also were willing to leave behind the Saulite dynasty and now move towards the Davidic kingdom. That is going to be a huge reading of the times, is that their faith was at work. Their faith understood that I cannot stay comfortable in the Saulite dynasty and collect my government checks from him. I need to understand that that has now passed away, and it's not that, okay, we'll need to make a way for ourselves and be self-dependent. It's rather now I have to depend on David and his kingdom so that we can be a blessing now to the people that God has gathered us around. Do you hear the difference? We're not depending on our own autonomy and ingenuity and inventiveness to make our life work. Whether that's our families, whether that's our education, academic experience, whether that's speaking towards our own church. We need to understand that we are not trying to become autonomous individuals. Now, this is where it gets tricky. Because in parenthood, for example, which largely shapes all of us in profound ways, whether we're parents or the ones who've received the parenting, is that we oftentimes want to understand the goal is to be independent and autonomous on my own. To which none of us would disagree with that, in the sense that if that's what we mean by that, is that I'm no longer dependent on my parents for my daily bread when I'm in my 20s and 30s. Is what, if we understand that by having independence, then fine and well. And that's what teen years are about, is about striving to get to that stage. But where this can fall apart, and where it does, is when we become so dependent no longer on anything familial rather than my own job to give me my worth, to give me my bread, to give me my influence, to feed my needs, whether it be social, emotional, physiological, psychological. The issue there is that I'm really trying to be my own person at the expense of not seeing what Issachar saw, which is that I can't say that I'm not dependent on a dynasty or a rule or a kingdom. I am dependent somewhere. I'm not altogether autonomous. So let me summarize all that, meaning to say that we ourselves, although we might say, well, I don't depend on mom and dad anymore for what I have, the truth is you are depending on someone, though. And to say that you're not would be to not be truthful about your own life. You're depending on someone or a people for not only your checks, but also your own sense of security, your comfort, your learning. You're depending on a lot of other people. So when we say it's not our parents, just know you're saying you are defecting, if you will. And I don't mean that in a negative sense, but just in terms of understanding what's going on, is that you're crossing borders, though, somewhere else. Do you know what borders you're crossing into when you leave your biological family behind? Do you know where you're going? Do you know who you're now depending on? Now, in the spiritual sense of what we're talking about today, we have left behind a kingdom that the devil was king. And we have now moved from that to the kingdom of Jesus. And we can see David very much as a Jesus figure. Moving into his kingdom, though, is not osmosis. That is where allegiance has to be given, where we bend the knee, we bow to him, and give him in full surrender our lives. Jesus then is going to be the one that we bring ourselves under, but it's the role of the church in our lives, much like Issachar's role with the tribes of Israel, and its unity depend upon depending there. Now let me get to where I'm getting at. I'm going somewhere with this. Do we understand I depend on this church for my own spiritual flourishing and well-being? Do I understand that there's a dependency upon our church? And by church, I could mean the institutional, but I mean the ontological. Meaning to say, not just the institution, capital C church, but I mean the actual brothers and sisters of Fuller Life Church I depend on. So what kind of dependencies come out of that? That I can have my faith fed and nourished, not only by Pastor Ian, but by the brothers and sisters in the community. We actually also have friendship, spiritual friendship now. We can pray together for each other's needs as they arise. And again, those needs that get brought up, whether it's in a group chat on WhatsApp or someone brings it up organically within family time, these are important moments for our church, because these are where we're doing what Issachar's tribe did, is that we're acknowledging we can't control the elements here. The higher the level of prayer requests in this church, the greater the sense of dependency upon the church. By extension is God. It all seems to make sense now of what we're doing here as a people. My point is, if your reliancy is not in any way needing this church, then you'll be out of here in less than 2 years. Because you don't need us. But if you recognize that this church is part of what my family needs, what I need for my own spiritual well-being, and there's something more than just spiritual. It affects the social, the emotional, right? It affects even my own mannerisms, my own way of life. My character gets developed here. It's what we're doing that a school can never do, because a school is temporary. A church is not. The church is eternal. We're going on into eternity. So what we're doing here, maybe not in this fashion and way, but into eternity, we'll still continue to be the church and to develop and grow who we are becoming. This church is meant to be a place that can become a refuge for you if you're suffering, but it's not a gas station where you just fill up and move on your way so you can just live your merry life, though. It's not that. It is a place, though, where I plant seeds, and then I get the key right now at your stage of where you are spiritually is, am I getting my roots into the soil of fuller life? Is that tree right there got roots going down? Or is it stunted and it's just kind of staying where it is? Because all it takes is one storm and you're gone. What you need is your roots to get down deep. So what are you saying, Pastor, I got to do for my roots to get down? You got to understand the times. Do you understand the times we're living in? Understanding the times means that I cannot depend on myself alone to live my life. I can't behave as if the church has no part or parcel to my well-being and my own spiritual growth. Let me put it to you more bluntly. How can I say I'm growing in Jesus if I have no connection to Fuller Life Church? Like, how can I say that? I'll give you what someone said in the 4th century, Cyril of Cyprian. He ended up saying, how can we say God is our Father and not call the church our mother? Thought there is, there's dependency upon the church. Issachar knows the times, and they switch from Saul to David because they acknowledge that they need to put down their roots somewhere. You have to ask yourself, am I putting my roots down here in this church? Now, I could play with capital C church. Well, it doesn't matter what church you go to. No, you're here, so let's call it what it is. We're here. What am I doing here? Am I just here for a New York minute, which means really, really fast? Or am I here not to grow for the seasons God puts me here, however long that is? We acknowledge that God leads and guides. That's how we understand we're all organized and gathered here together. We're acknowledging God's doing the work. But we also acknowledge I got to be willing to put my roots down. I can't frustrate the grace of God, to use the language of Paul, to the Galatians. Rather, instead of frustrating the grace of God, I need to receive his grace by breaking up the soil and putting my roots down and acknowledging, like Ruth did with Naomi, that your people will be my people. Your God will be my God. That's a way of saying my roots are going down here. And I'm putting my roots down here because I understand that this is where God not only would have me to survive a spiritual famine, for example, but to actually thrive and flourish and become who I'm meant to be as God's very people. So what will be signs that we can read of the times for us will include that your gifts that God has given each of you, and I speak that individually, but also within your family units or your group dynamics of who you come with, that those very gifts you have are beginning to now be exercised within this church. That the things that you can do that just come freely to you, that would take me very difficult and a lot of effort just to do a small amount of what you could do in a large amount, but you barely did anything to make it happen. That's called a gift, right? That's the wiring of your brain, right? That's just how you're built, right? And we're using scientific language to describe what God says in his word, which is you have a spiritual gift, all right? That's you. You are, it's not just, we're not talking about a generic thing that you all are gifts. I'm talking about specific gifts that you have. Some of you can do things on this music stuff that I would not have a chance at. And I'm happy about that because I understand that I don't need to be doing everything. Everyone needs to, though, be doing everything, if you follow what I'm saying, by finding their gift and getting the soil down deep. So that's where I'm going to get my soil down. That's how I'm going to get my roots down into the soil, is that I'm discovering my giftedness and I'm putting it to service for the church with the idea of mission for the world as well. It's a both and there, right? So we're understanding that we know storms are going to come. Jesus told us that, right? When the storms came and beat against that house, right? If it doesn't have a good foundation, what happens is that it falls and it crumbles to the ground. So we need to put our roots down deep. How can I understand the times? Understand the times could be understood in this context. As simple as February 13th to 16th. There's a lot going on there that weekend, right? You got Chinese New Year, you got Valentine's Day, you got Family Day. I mean, that's just like the big stuff that we all share. That's not including the fact that you might know somebody that has a birthday or somebody has a celebration or life just happens. There's some other event that takes place. These kind of things, understand the times. If I'm saying Fuller Life is my church, then I need to be at that retreat. Just thinking out loud with you, don't I? I need to be there because I need to get my roots down, because the retreat is a place where there's fellowship there, but it's not just a social good time. It's this place where we're spiritually impacted together. It's the together part at the same time by God's Spirit working in all of our lives. Many commitments come out of that, for example. My experience in a previous church was many of the baptisms that happened in the church happened because of the retreats that had happened previously, that commitments were forged for Jesus. That's roots getting down, but retreats are where it has to happen. So you got to read the times in this church. We're moving towards a retreat kind of perspective for our church as well, where we are discovering a winter retreat. In the dormant season of winter, we're discovering we can still grow together in a meaningful way. Now, I grant you, it's because I'm on sabbatical that we're not doing it on the normal August weekend, but we might be having one on the other side of that later on in 2026. It's not to say that a fall retreat can't happen, right? I'm thinking retreat twice a year, discerning the times here, makes sense for this church, because we do better when we are retreating. And that sounds kind of counterintuitive, because retreating, not in the sense that I'm trying to run away from something, but I'm running to my life together with God's people. And so I'm not simply saying get curious and interested in each other, but understand spiritually the times. This church is moving into a retreat type of level where we need time together for an extended period of time. 3 days, 3 nights is that. That's a time commitment. No doubt about it. But it's one worth doing if we recognize the value of our life together as a church. So we understand that retreats are not the same as a Sunday. The things that we get done in a retreat cannot be done on a Sunday, however hard we try. It just doesn't. I cannot explain why, other than that it just is. So I'm encouraging you to understand the times. There's a retreat coming up. That's a spiritual thing. That means you should be praying for one another. Pray for, and specifically in light of what we're hearing here, pray for each other's roots to get down in the soil so that we become stronger together. And that we understand that it's not just one person or one family, but it's all of us together in this season of our lives and growth, that we would develop and become who God made us to be. The tribe of Issachar understood the times. Now, we're talking about the times in this context of church, but let's understand the times on a wider level, because we see things changing in a dramatic level outside of these walls. They impact all of us because we bring it here, but there's something to be said about what's going on outside the doors. It's without question changing our lives in terms of how we behave, what we live, what we do, how we're interacting with one another, or the lack thereof. And it's the usage of our smartphones. You get a chance, listen to Josiah Queen's song, Dusty Bibles. There's a beautiful few lines in that song that talk about how he misses his friends and how he wishes things would go back to 2017. And what he's talking about in that song, or singing about rather, is that in 2017, that was the advent of the smartphone getting invented. And he talks about how he just misses his friends and how his Bible has become dusty. And he wonders why we feel this way. It's less than 10 years. We're less than a decade in of this, and we're seeing dramatic impacts on people's moods, their humanity. They're becoming less human, right? When you'd understand, you'd agree, right? Like if you're becoming more anxious or depressed, that's not making you more human. That's making you less human, right? We're talking about screen time when understanding the times. Screen time. Let me ask you, how aware are you of how much time you spend on a screen daily? Are you aware? And I want to get into it. Do you know the numbers? Have you done the analytics? You can check your phone. It'll show you. This week, I gave Isaiah a challenge. There was a book that just came out. What was the name of the book again? The Amazing Generation. Talking about his generation. I could not find this book at Chapters for the life of me. I didn't know why I couldn't find it. It was Heather's pick at Chapters, so it's like obviously it would be broadcasted or put somewhere visible I could see it. Couldn't find it anywhere. I was going through all the sections, and I'm okay with doing that because in a sense I like books, so I don't mind reading through or looking through books, and it turned into an hour-long expedition. But then eventually I had to wave the white flag and go, I can't find this book. Where is this book? It says in there that there's 19 copies here in this place. Where? I've gone to almost every section. I don't see it. So I eventually do what I don't like to do. I asked for help on finding the book. And she took me into the kids' place, the colorful place where all the kids are. And she takes me to the back in the 9 to 12 youth reference aisle, which is nonfiction. And there, and lo and behold, are the 19 copies of The Amazing Generation. Glad I found it. Got it, brought it home, and I told Isaiah, I want you to do something. This was on Monday, probably, I want to say. And I brought it home, and I said, I have a proposition for you. I want you to read this. You read it, you get a $25 Amazon gift card, just because. That's not really anything much other than just like an incentivizing, but I want to encourage him. He picked the book up himself, and he started getting into it himself. I knew it. I kind of knew it was going to happen because I could see how it really catered to him. And it definitely, and you can talk to him even after during lunch hour about what exactly it meant to him. But all that to say, he was giving me some of the facts. When he's volunteering it, and I'm not even asking, it's like, this is exactly, God, how I thought my life would look, right? We're reading, we're sharing with each other what we're discovering. It's like, it's what I imagine church would be, right? What you're discovering in God's Word, you share with each other. It's a place where joy is encouraged. The author of that book also wrote the book, The Anxious Generation. So you got The Anxious Generation, now The Amazing Generation. His book was so influential. This is Jonathan Haidt is his name. His book was so influential that it was able to ban technology from schools in the state of New York. That's how influential his book was. What did he do exactly? He said, do not use phones in school. But not simply only not in class, but not from when you come to school and when you leave. And the impact of that was shown was that library memberships went up, like library enrollment. People were more taking out books. It then also became that there was, and then watch it now, this is what the principal and other teachers were saying. We heard laughter in the hallways like we hadn't heard since 2010. Kids were eating together now and not on their phones. Kids were reporting they're more happier because they're able to be with each other. You can understand how the social experience in school is already a big piece. That if you're on a phone, it robs you of that experience with one another. He was able to successfully ban that. And they saw the value of it. And now that's beginning to perpetuate in states now like New Jersey have just gone through it as well. I believe Canada's somewhere on that continuum of not having it. In the school that I'm in, though, specifically, they bring their phones and they leave it on this wooden thing wooden apparatus where you put your phone in the slot and then you can pick it up later. But what I've noticed is they're also allowing them, though, sometimes in between classes to do it, and it does impact them. Because you don't need to interact with people if you're on your phone. Now again, I ask you, how much time do you spend on screens a week? That is a spiritual question that actually affects your discipleship. Are you aware? Here's what the science says. Isaiah, correct me if I'm wrong. For every, if you're on it 2 hours a day, then that's 1 month a year that you're spending on your phone. If it's 4 hours a day, then it's 2 months a year you're spending on your phone. If it's 6 hours a day, then it's 3 months a year you're spending on your phone. If it's 8 hours a day that you're on a screen, then that will mean 4 months out of 12 will be spent on a screen. Now I ask you, how is your screen time doing? It's alarming because we all do it. But what's alarming is that it becomes where social media dominates our lives. And when social media dominates our lives to the level it's doing with scrolling specifically, scrolling has become the virtue that is being practiced in this society, which is more of a vice. Scrolling is something where, you know, they were explaining within that book that Isaiah read, The Amazing Generation, that the issue that needs to be understood is that big tech marketers know exactly how to hook us. And it was reported that if you told people that screen time's bad, they would end up stopping it. Is not going to happen. For younger kids especially, they did what they did with smoking. When you told people smoking's bad, it didn't make them stop smoking. What made them stop smoking, and where it caused now deregulations to happen within government to the customers in society, was that it ended up happening that if you can show people how they're getting scammed by big companies, they will be less likely to want to use those things. And so the book aims at wanting to show how big tech companies are basically using you to make money off of you where you're the product now. You're not buying a product, you're the product. And they're using you to make money. Now, it could be our choice whether we want to choose to still do it in spite of the fact that by clicking on these things will now make them more wealthy and us less spiritually well. But we need to process that understanding the times, we have to find another way to live. There's only 200 chiefs in Issachar that were able to figure out stuff like this. There isn't many that are promoting this because what's getting promoted now is AI at another level, right? AI is going to keep us on our screens long term. Is that the best way to live? That's my question. Is that the companion I need in my life, or do I not need a human being? Do I not need a real person to tell my feelings to? You'd be surprised. People are reported as telling AI, I'm feeling sad, what should I do? So what became invented because of that? Chatbots. Chatbots are dangerous things, folks, and that would not be something we would want to encourage. Chatbots are basically developing relationships with robots. It's a scary world we're living in, that people have real needs and a robot could help you to feel less lonely. Think about how this can twist the human psyche and the human person. The sons of Issachar knew we have an inheritance to give to the next generation, and it's not to keep them zombified on a phone. I'm a dad. I got kids that are growing up. I got 2 teenagers under my roof. They don't have phones. That's a conscious choice, and it's not that they don't want it. That's a choice that Christina and I have made as mother and father, that and they'll bring up great points. Oh, my friend, though, has Discord, and we got to go through this to be able to do our assignment. Tell them to get Google Chat then. We're going to have to work another way. They can do their business. I have no problem with families who choose to do their thing. This is not about them. This is about us under this roof. We're going to do things a certain way because we want to promote a life that endorses and encourages friendship, gives you people skills to know how to talk to each other, pray for each other, right? That's what we want. That's the goal of being rooted together long term. We want to find another way than just keep our kids on a phone or keep a screen in front of them to occupy them. Meanwhile, the science hasn't fully told us what blue light's doing to our eyes. We know it's probably not something good. I mean, we have some optometrists in the community. Maybe they can give us the research, what's happening. But we recognize that what we want to do is we want to discover another way to live. And I want to say the other way to live, I'm wanting to persuade you, is a better way to live. But how do we do it? How do we do it? My answer is by looking to God and each other's faces. Your face glows better than my smartphone ever will. Do you know that? When I see your face lit up with the joy of God, nothing beats it. Nothing. When I see life, though, through the lens of a camera, it's not the same. I got a chance yesterday to do something I've wanted to do, frankly, for 20, 40 years, and I didn't even realize it. We got a chance yesterday to go to Mississauga and to go and watch a live curling event. I love curling. That's just my own personal stuff. But I know all these people that I was going to see who were playing. I knew all their names. I know their history. I even saw some of them go from being single to married to now having kids. Like I know the stories of them growing up, so it's cool. But I saw them in person. I'm like, you're smaller than I thought you were. Well, I was like, well, of course, because women are normally smaller than men, for example. And then seeing the ice, I'm like, the ice looks like that. Is that dry ice? Is that real ice? What is that? Like all these kind of curiosity things started awakening me. And I recognized what's going on. I'm not living behind a camera anymore. I'm not living behind what's on the screen of a television. I'm actually there live to actually see it for myself. And it's a totally different experience now. We're starting to see things about how it really works around here and really taking in the culture, the environment, and breathing in that air. I love it more. I left it loving it more than I did going in, and I loved it a lot going in. That's kind of what I hope for people who would be behind a camera in general, is that you'd move behind the screen and now get into the playing field of where real people like you and me are and be able to say, I kind of like the air I'm breathing here. It's pretty cool how we can just kind of be ourselves here, huh? Church is a place where you can finally be who you really are. That you can be the you that doesn't get accused or blamed or condemned, but the you that becomes embraced and enjoyed for who you are and loved at every age and stage of your growth, and that we welcome and look forward to the next steps in your life because we know they're coming and we just want to celebrate that with you. And if it goes through hardship, then I want to be able to grieve with you as well. You as a church already showed me that. When my mother died, this church showed me care. That card you wrote to me, I got it, I read it, and I wept. Because there were people that cared about me and what I was going through in my grief. This is not a place simply where I can have, it's not a fun house is what I'm saying, where we just come in and we play and we, or a house of mirrors where I just look at myself and kind of laugh and then I walk out of here. This is a place where I can also talk about the deeper things of life and I can grieve too. And I can know other people understand my sadness, that they know how to give me the space, but they also know how to come in and know how to bless me as well and speak into my life when I'm hurt. That's what this church really is. And that's why this church is stronger than a community center, better than a mosque, better than a Buddhist temple, a mandir. It's better than a synagogue, because when God shows up among his people in this way because of the Spirit working through our people, and you understand the times we're living in, that we need to be closer to each other than ever. Because guess what? If we're not closer together, we all know what we're doing probably is we're on our phone somewhere. Now I'm asking, is that the best way we want to live? Or isn't there not a better way to live? And the best way to live is that I get to know your name and get to know your story, and you get to know my story, and we connect, and we develop friendships that go beyond just the Sunday service into outside of here, and we begin to be a blessing onto other people around us. You already show that you treat each other as family because you eat together. Most people don't eat together with people other than their families, right? We're saying something about what we're doing here, and we seem to be pretty stubborn about it, that we're having community meals, it seems, every Sunday now these days, right? That's a good thing. It's a good thing because I need to be emotionally available. It's a demanding thing because I need to be emotionally available. But it's a thing, to be sure, that I should expect, whether I'm an introvert or an extrovert, I should expect, though, that I'm welcome at the table. And so is my family, and so are my friends. This can be a place where I can invite more than just my own kind, but invite people who are searching for community and searching for belonging and searching for Jesus to show that he's the one who makes sense of all this. Do you understand the times we're living in? Well, the tribe of Issachar understood the times, didn't they? And they are remembered in God's word forever as those who understood what times there was and what Israel had to do. We know what we got to do now. We got to break up the soil. We got to plant seeds in the lives of each other. We need to water that. And we got to let God do his work in here and let it grow. Because he's the only one that can make anything grow around here. The men of Issachar knew that, but they also knew that God grows things best when we're outdoors, when it's out of our control, and we leave it in God's hands. So here's my prayer that we'll have less screen time, because we found something better than screens. We found community. We found a real group of real people that actually care about me and will listen to me and hear me out. However crazy my feelings might be or wild, they're willing to listen, they're willing to hear, and they're willing to bless and pray for me. Oh, it's kind of given us a little pullback of the curtain of what winter retreat will be like this year. A time where everyone will be glad we're there, and we can leave all our cares at the end of the door and just say we can get back to those on the way out. But for now, let's just spend time together. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we do an activity that doesn't demand our eyes. It's rather just close them and commune with you in our spirits. And so we lift up to you, Lord, a heart of praise and thanks that we're not condemned to a life where we have to live our lives with a screen in front of us because we're lonely or because we're always searching for something that's new, that's coming next. We can actually find pleasure in our togetherness, that we have each other, and that we can celebrate, Lord, our life together because Jesus is the kingdom that we live in. He is the very king of this kingdom, and we pledge our allegiance to you, Lord. And this worship song is a communication of that to you. It's our worship, Lord. It's the only way to break us free, Lord, from the tyranny of the very things that our generation are growing into. Father, help us, I pray, Lord, to be solutions to problems that abound. We don't pretend, Lord, that we can do it. We know that it comes from you. But we do ask, Lord, that we will be able to be teachers that can help others to know what to do. And that when they do it, they'll be blessed. And that they'll experience life. And that they'll be free from addictions. Free from pain that was brought because of our own behaviors. Lord, give us, I pray, peace so that peace, Lord, could be shared immensely and immeasurably with others who need it more than even we do. Thank you for your love for us. Thank you that love makes us secure. We are not insecure, we are not anxious, and we're not scared. We are your people. And we follow Jesus, who is the King of a better kingdom, who has brought us in and delivered us from all shame and bondage. We bless your name and give you thanks together. Hear our praises now as we sing unto you.